An ancient rite, the Tenebrae service, is one of silence and reflection in preparation of the Holy Week observance. With the lighting of 7 candles, the symbolic service begins with a succession of dramatic narrations of the Passion of Christ. The candles are extinguished one at a time after each reading. As the service draws to a close, the last, or Christ candle, is removed from sight to symbolize Christ's death and entombment. With the church in total darkness, a loud clash reminiscent of the cataclysm that rent the veil of the temple signals the return of the last candle as a foreshadow of the resurrection. After the closing postlude, the congregation will depart in silence. Will you please stand and let us sing hymn number 131, All Glory, Laud, and Honor.
First reading, Shadow of Betrayal, Matthew 26, 20-25. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." They were very sad and began to say to him one after the other, "Surely you don't mean me, Lord." Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Then Judas, the one who had betrayed him, said, "Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi." Jesus answered, "You have said so."
In the evening, he sat down with the 12 disciples, and during supper, he said,
I tell you this, one of you will betray me.
In great distress, they exclaimed one after another,
Can you mean me, Lord?
Can you mean me, Lord?
He answered,
One who had dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man is going to way appointed for him in the Scriptures. But alas, for that man whom the Son of Man has betrayed, it would be better for that man if he had never been born.
Then Judas spoke, the one who was to betray him.
Rabbi, can you mean me?
Jesus replied,
The words are yours.
Shadow of desertion. Matthew 26, verses 30 through 35. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same.
After singing the Passover hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them,
"Tonight you will all fall from your faith on my account, for it stands written, I will strike the shepherd down, and the sheep of his flock will be scattered. But after I am raised again, I will go on before you into Galilee."
Peter replied,
Everyone else may fall away on your account, but I never will.
and Jesus said to him,
"I tell you, tonight before the cock crows, you will disown me 3 times.
Peter said,
Even if I must die with you, I will never disown you.
and all the disciples said the same.
Shadow of an unshared vigil. Luke 22, verses 39 through 46. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and went back to the disciples, he found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray so that you will not fall into temptation."
Then he went out and made his way as usual to the Mount of Olives, accompanied by his disciples. When he reached the place, he said to them,
Pray that you may be spared the hour of testing.
He himself withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt down, and began to pray.
Father, if it will be thy will, take this cup away from me, yet not my will, but thine be done.
And now there appeared to him an angel from heaven, bringing him strength, and in anguish of spirit he prayed more urgently, and his sweat was like clots of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and came to the disciples, he found them asleep, worn out by grief. He said,
Why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may be spared the test.
Shadow of accusation. Mark 14, verses 43 through 65. Just as he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared. With him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priest, the teachers of the law, and the elders. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Am I leading a rebellion," said Jesus, "that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you, teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me, but the scriptures must be fulfilled." Then everyone deserted him and fled. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled naked, leaving his garment behind. They took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests, the elders, and the teachers of the law came together. Peter followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. There he sat with the guards and warmed himself at the fire. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. Then some stood up and gave this false testimony against him. "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days will build another, not made with hands.' Yet even then their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, 'Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?' But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, 'Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?' 'I am,' said Jesus, 'and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven.' The high priest tore his clothes. 'Why do we need any more witnesses?' he asked. 'You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?' They all condemned him as worthy of death. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, 'Prophesy!' And the guards took him and beat him.
Suddenly, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared, and with him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs sent by the chief priests, lawyers, and elders. The traitor had agreed with them upon a signal.
The one I kiss is your man. Seize him and get him safely away."
When he reached the spot, he stepped forward at once and said to Jesus,
"Rabbi."
and he kissed him. Then they seized him and held his feet. One of the party drew his sword and struck at the high priest's servant, cutting off his ear. Jesus then spoke.
Do you take me for a bandit, that you have come out with swords and clubs to arrest me? Day after day I was within your reach as I taught in the temple, and you did not lay hands on me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled."
Then all the disciples all deserted him and ran away. Among those following was a young man with nothing on but a linen cloth. They tried to seize him, but he slipped out of the linen cloth and ran away naked. Then they led Jesus away to the high priest's house, where the chief priests, elders, and doctors of the law were all assembling. Peter followed him at a distance, right into the high priest's courtyard, and there he remained, sitting among the attendants, warming himself at the fire. The chief priests and the whole council tried to find some evidence against Jesus to warrant a death sentence, but failed. Many gave false evidence against him, but their statements did not tally. Some stood and gave false evidence against him to the effect,
"We heard him say, 'I will pull down this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days I will build another, not made with hands.'"
But even at this point, their evidence did not agree. Then the high priest stood up and questioned Jesus.
Have you no answer to the charges that these witnesses bring against you?
But he kept silence. He made no reply. Again, the high priest questioned him.
Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?
Jesus said,
I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of God and coming with the clouds of heaven.
Then the high priest tore his robes and said,
Need we call further witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What is your opinion?
Their judgment was unanimous. He was guilty and should be put to death. Some began to spit on him, blindfolded him, and struck him with their fists, crying out, "Prophecy!" And the high priest's men set upon him with blows.
Shadow of crucifixion. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head they placed the written charge against him: "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left.
Pilate's soldiers then took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, where they collected the whole company round him. They stripped him and dressed him in a scarlet mantle and placed a crown of thorns on his head, with a cane in his right hand. Falling on their knees before them, they jeered at him.
"Hail, King of the Jews!"
They spat on him and used the cane to beat him about the head. When they had finished their mockery, they took off his mantle and dressed him in his own clothes. They then led him away to be crucified. On their way out, they met a man from Cyrene, Simon by name, and pressed him into service to carry his cross. Soon they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, and there he was offered a draught of wine mixed with gall. But when he had tasted it, he would not drink. After fastening him to the cross, they divided his clothes among them by casting lots, and then sat down there to keep watch. Over his head was placed the inscription giving the charge, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and the other on his left.
Shadow of death. It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m, for the sun stopped shining. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion, seeing what had happened, praised God and said, "Surely this was a righteous man." When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. But all those who knew him, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance, watching these things.
By now it was about midday, and a darkness fell over the whole land, which lasted until 3 p.m. The sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus gave a loud cry and said,
Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit.
And with these words he died. The centurion saw it all and gave praise to God. He said,
Beyond all doubt, this man was innocent.
The crowd had assembled for the spectacle, and when they saw what had happened, went home, beating their breasts. His friends had all been standing at a distance. The women who had accompanied him from Galilee stood with them and watched it all.
Save our soul.
Shadow of the tomb. Later, Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly, because he feared the Jewish leaders. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen. This was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. Because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there.
After that, Pilate was approached by Joseph of Arimathea, a disciple of Jesus, but a secret disciple for fear of Jews, who asked to be allowed to remove the body of Jesus. Pilate gave permission, so Joseph came and took the body away. He was joined by Nicodemus, the man who had first visited Jesus by night, who brought with him a mixture of myrrh and aloes, more than 100 weight. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen cloth, according to Jewish burial customs. Now at the place where he had been crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb not yet used for burial. There, because the tomb was near at hand, and it was the eve of the Jewish Sabbath, they laid Jesus.
light of the resurrection. Jesus has risen. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might go in to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, "Who will roll the stone away from the entrance to the tomb?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. And they entered the tomb, and they saw a young man dressed in white robes sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him? But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you."
This concludes the service tonight. May you be blessed and have a blessed Easter.